Welcome to A Well-Designed Business with your host, Luann Nigara. Luann has a lifetime of experience building a multi-million-dollar business with her husband and cousin, and she knows the challenges you face in your interior design business. Luann brings you real-life answers to your most pressing problems, as well as practical strategies to explode your interior design business. So, let's get to the business of interior design.
Hi, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. We have so many new listeners in the last several weeks, and I am so grateful, and I want to take a moment to say a special hello to you if you are new. I also want to let you know that if you are new, we have some pretty spectacular sponsors of our show. We have Cravat Inc. featuring CuratedCravat.com, who has been with me from the very first show. If you need to source, specify, and order furniture, rugs, lighting, bedding, and accessories from a reliable, trade-only source, head over to CuratedCravat.com and at checkout use the code CKPodcast for 10% off your entire order. Next, we also have My Doma Studio. My Doma Studio is your one-stop shop for the very best interior design business software. Keep your projects systemized, organized, and professionally present and communicate with your clients and vendors all in one intuitive platform. To see what I'm talking about, go to mydomastudio.com/awelldesignedbusiness. So on the show today, I am so happy to introduce you to Chaney Widmer, the founder of Mix and Match Design Company. Chaney is a smart lady who saw a need and created it. You will hear Chaney explain she created Mix and Match Design to provide accessible, affordable interior design to everyone. After many years of writing a design blog and helping friends and family put together homes they loved, founder Chaney Widmer decided it was time to jump in head first and launch her own internet-based design business. With her e-design business, Chaney is committed to taking the intimidation out of interior design. Whether a client is starting from scratch on a brand new home, adding a few pieces to pull a room together, or just in need of another set of eyes to take their space from good to great. Chaney offers one-on-one decorating services through e-design and online interior design, and she shares her inspiration and decorating tips on the Mix and Match blog. Listen in as Chaney impresses me with her poise, her intelligence, and her carefully designed business model. Hi, Chaney. Thanks for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, Luann. Thanks for having me.
I'm looking forward to this, Chaney, because you hit me up that you were doing e-design. And, of course, we've talked about e-design on the show before. One of the very early episodes was with Christina Perry from Tennessee. And a big part of her business is e-design, but not the whole part of her, not her whole business. And there have been lots of discussions of designers offering it. But I met you in Philadelphia when I went for the opening of the Philadelphia Design Center and the Cravat Inc. redesign and launch of that showroom there, right?
That's right. Yeah, we did get to talk a little bit there, and having me on the show is very exciting. So I'm excited to talk about e-design today.
Yeah. So you were like, I do e-design. And I'm like, oh, that's great. And you're like, no, that's all I do. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Okay, that's different. How do you make money, right? So I said, don't tell me. Don't tell me. I'll ask you on the show.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay. So here's the thing. Talk to us a little bit about it. I explained in the introduction that you started out as a side hustle, and now it's your full-time business. And so there was a period there where you were crossing over. But tell us a little bit about first the motivation, Chaney. Why are you interested in doing strictly e-design?
That's a great question, and it's one that I get a lot because e-design is pretty new to people in general. To designers, it's sort of become something that's talked about a fair amount, but especially to clients or potential clients, they don't want to know what this whole e-design thing is. And the reason that I started this business was because I wanted to make design accessible and affordable for people, more for the general population. So there's always going to be a place for luxury design, for that custom, all all-inclusive white glove service, but then there's a whole section of the population that's been totally unreached. And I think that e-design is a way for people to be able to get the design help that they've always wanted. They've been inspired by Pinterest or Houzz or something like that, HGTV, you name it, but they realize they can't take that vision and actually make it a reality. So that's where that e-design help comes in.
That's interesting because I have to say, we always talk about niche on the podcast, right? We always talk about find your lane, swim in it, to be the best at it. And I love that you recognize that whether or not you're personally capable of full service luxury design, that you recognize that what you're doing is different from that and have understood and figured out that it is as valuable and is as needed, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool because I think a lot of times one of the things I don't know, I find that one of the challenges as entrepreneurs that we have is that we're capable of something, so we think we should do it. Right.
That's
and so,
exactly right.
And so it's not always the case. Right. So a lot of times it's like, well, just because I could do high end luxury interior design doesn't mean it's what is going to fulfill me or satisfy me or whatever. So what was it for you? So you have this combination of really wanting to be able to bring a level of design to every person who's interested in it. But does it serve purposes for you as a person and as a wife and all those things too? Or is it really just rooted in the that you'd love to just be able to share the world of design with every level of, this lower, I shouldn't say lower level, but this niche level of pocketbook, right?
Yeah, it's the next level down from, maybe the top 1% of earners and talking more about the next, 20 to 30% of earners who can afford this kind of service. And the hurdle actually isn't the design. It's actually paying for the pieces, the furniture and the decor that's going in. People don't bat an eye at the design fee all the time. It's more just, am I ready to put this room together? Am I ready to spend, $1,500 on a sofa or something like that? And for sort of the general population, that's a big stretch. Right. I would say even spending that much on a sofa might be a stretch. And so there's a lot of motivation, I think, behind this. For one, it's that I myself appreciate affordable design, and I appreciate, finding that sort of budget-friendly piece that's also going to look good and that's going to be practical for people. So I want to kind of break down those barriers between, the design itself and actually implementing that in your home. So I wanted to be able to give people tools and information to be able to really take it kind of from there. They get a shopping list at the end of my service, and then they get to take it from there. And I want to give them the tools to be able to replicate that in their homes. So I think it's like, trying to create a sense of hospitality, welcome, and helping people feel like they can invite others into their homes, but they don't have to spend their entire salary for the year to do that.
Yeah, because everybody has different values too. So it's not always that somebody can or can't afford the other type of full service luxury design. It's sometimes people don't place value on it, and it's not their life's dream to have a $7,000 custom made one of a kind sofa. They're happy to have a room that's well appointed, but like you said, didn't cost their salary in order to do it, because it's like you're proving it's possible. We all know it. We all know it's possible to put together a beautiful room and not have everything be the most expensive thing on the world in it, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's showing people that it, A, is possible, and B, that, it doesn't take a crazy amount of time or energy. It's that they just need the right tools to be able to do it.
And of course, are you finding that do you track your client demographics? In other words, are you mostly working with younger couples or singles that are coming out that are old enough to not have their house or apartment look like a frat house, but young enough that they, aren't really thinking about making an investment in pieces that they'll have for 25 years? Or are you working with empty nesters? Like, are you tracking that information at all?
I am. Yeah. So my ideal client really has kind of come together with who I'm actually taking on as a client, which is exciting. But my target demographic and what seems to be lining up is sort of that sweet spot of like late 20s to early 40s. It's people who are often first-time home buyers, and they're kind of ready to take that step and make their homes into something that's a little bit more put together than maybe their college, or certainly more than their college dorm room, but, maybe more than their first apartment or something like that. It's often couples, and it's often people with young children. So it's sort of that we're ready to do something, but not the 25-year investment kind of thing.
I think I wonder if this is just so ready for this at this point in time, because like I often do when I speak to guests and they give their different answers, I search my memory bank and search my world for analogies and things where there's commonalities. And I'm thinking about my one daughter who is getting ready to buy a house this coming year. Her and her husband are in their 30s to 40s. And, they've been married 6 or 7 years. They've got one baby. They've been in a great apartment. They're thinking about going to that first house, which will be their only house. So they're bypassing their apartment was their first house phase. Okay. Sure. And I can see somebody like her thinking, well, I've grown up in homes that were well designed. Okay. But we're also not, because it's something that I have as a skill set, but not to the level of, every designer listening for sure. But the point is, it's exactly that sweet spot. It's like she knows what it looks like to have a house put together well, but doesn't really have an experience or hasn't been raised with. And next thing you have to sign the dotted line on the house is you'll hire a very expensive, fancy interior designer. Like, do you know what I'm saying? So I could see, and also feeling like she's got a sense of style. She's a grown woman. She's got some money, not a lot of time. And I could see her really appreciating a service like this. Whereas if another 5 or 6 years, say she buys that house and she does this and she continues on the track that she's on because she's a firecracker, this kid. I could see her at the next phase, her in her 40s, say, okay, just find me the lady or the guy and have them come in. Like, I could just see it at different phases of your life. I just really could.
Yeah, there's an evolution for sure. And I think being okay with that, knowing that you're in a place where you could maybe afford e-design at this time, or you value having that service, but maybe you're not quite ready for that luxury interior designer. Maybe you will be one day, or maybe you kind of learn along the way and are able to do it yourself long term. It just depends on the person. And so I think there's not a new market necessarily, but it's meeting a need that is being realized now.
Oh, I know when you said new market, I know where I was going to go with that. And okay, I remember. So it's also not only having grown up in a home that's been more or less, put together the right way, but also because of all of the design shows.
That's right.
You're aware that with somebody with a little bit of expertise, you're going to get something put together better than you could do yourself. And of course, this whole generation has grown up with that. That was the other thing I was saying. It's almost been created. I was going to go down that angle. And also too, again, I could see from the standpoint of when they come from a 3-room apartment, they're going to go to probably an 8 or a 10-room home. And even if that target market, that target client, that 30s to 40s, they might say, yes, we're going to hire the full-on in-person designer to do the kitchen or to do the master bedroom, but we have 8 other rooms. That'd be really swell not to spend tens of thousands of dollars, right?
So okay, and budget is really important to me. So if you give me a $5,000 budget for a room, I'm going to stick to that,
right?
And so I think people appreciate that and the transparency that I kind of bring to that as well.
Okay. So now let's get into the nitty gritty of it, because the reality is that your prices on your website are very reasonable. Now, you said to me off air, and I'll share, that you're going to be restructuring for the new year and raising prices a little bit. So if anybody looks at this in airtime, know that it's going to change. But because they are right on your website, I'd like to talk about it a little bit. So you have a full room design for $300. And That just strikes me as, give me 10. Like, why, that's just like, that's so insanely reasonable. And I'm just going to outline the things that I understood from your website that include that, and we'll pick them apart a little bit. Okay, Chaney?
Great.
So the first thing that you're doing is you're first of all, I love that you're saying to the potential client, pay first. Thank you very much. Purchase it, and then you can take step 2. And step 2 is complete a survey that you provide with them. Then you ask them to send photos and a floor plan. I love that you have right there the actual how to do a floor plan for them. Of course, you're not expecting them to do it at expert level, but you give them the information that they need so that you can get good quality information back. And then you ask them to create inspiration photos and make sure that they are access to you, whether through a Pinterest board or email or whatever it is. Okay.
Exactly.
Here's what I like. You say that you will respond with your preliminary design within 1 week. You say that you will respond to any email communication within 24 hours. And here's the thing I love the most. You say that each project has a 30-day time limit on it. So I love that. I love that because that just says to me, Chaney, that you're smart, okay, that you've set up parameters and you had me at hello at that. So, so tell me a little bit about, for $300, going through a process like this. Obviously, there's always exceptions to the rule, but a typical project, how many hours are you spending on that? From hello, it's in my car, to goodbye, thank you, have a great life.
Sure. So it's about 8 to 10 hours per room. Like you said, it depends a lot on different things. But one thing I did want to say that we will probably get into in a little bit is that the $300 isn't all that I earn from a particular client. So there is some commission on the back end from purchases, but we can talk about that in a bit. But yeah, it's about 8 to 10 hours per room. Some clients are super easy and they are done in one round of design stuff, and that's the goal, right? But that never happens.
Okay.
Because often clients don't even know what they want until they see the first design, and then they realize they can kind of iterate that from there and go down that road.
And so is there a limit on the number of revisions, or as long as it all happens within 30 days, you'll revise? How do you handle that?
Yeah, so it's pretty much within that 30-day window, and it's rare that I actually have to enforce that. The average client takes about 2 weeks from start to finish. Okay. It's a pretty quick process, and often what happens is I send the first design, they get back to me within a couple of days after they've had a chance to review. Then the revision process for me is pretty quick because of my back-end systems that I have set up, so it doesn't take a ton of time to revise it after that. And then it takes probably on average 2 to 3 revisions, and then they get their shopping list and it's all done. Okay. So it's pretty quick.
Now, here's what I would say to you. Here's what I would ask you, is how I mean to phrase it. Do you feel that you are able to complete most projects with 2 to 3 revisions within 2 weeks or so because of you have been doing this for 2 years and you have gained a level of efficiency with it? Or did you find that was pretty much what did you find?
Yeah, so that's evolved over time, definitely. So as I've gotten more experience and more clients under my belt, I can anticipate needs a lot better. And I've also refined my intake processes, so the onboarding stuff, so that I get as much from them as possible at the beginning. And I don't usually have a lot of follow-up questions for them. So there's not a lot of back and forth at the beginning over email. I kind of, take that information, ask a couple of questions, and then it's off to the races on designing the room. So it's pretty quick in terms of the efficiency of the beginning of the process and the end, actually. So the shopping list generation and the setup instructions, those kinds of things, those processes have evolved over time to really make it more of a streamlined and kind of works for both me and the client and works pretty quickly.
Okay. So if somebody were listening and they have been doing e-design and they're finding that they are more often involved in more than 2 to 3 revisions, it sounds like if they were asking your advice, the first thing you would say is go back to your intake process, that you're not getting enough information in the intake process.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my survey, I don't know if you had a chance to click through it, but just for everybody listening, it's pretty detailed, but it's also not overwhelming. So it gives me the basic information about who they are, what they do, their style, budget, and what their needs are for the space specifically. So they have some freeform space, they have some check boxes to go through, and so they can go through and give me a lot of information in a pretty short period of time for them. And then they have to obviously deliver the photos and floor plans and stuff like that. But in terms of getting that information up front, I find that survey is crucial to really get as much as you need.
Okay. So I have two different angles that I want to go down, and I'm just going to say them out loud because you might have to remind me to cover them both. Okay, so I don't forget. So the first angle is the monetization, and the second angle is challenges and problems that come up. So, okay, so let's talk about the challenges and problems at this point. So, for instance, how often, if somebody is considering doing this, how often and what types of things? Like my brain goes to, okay, look, I measure for a living every day of the week, and I can tell you a week and a half ago I was supposed to make a blind 35 by 48 and I ordered it 48 by 35. So like take that, okay? So my thing is how often are you faced with someone who has measured a wall wrong, and now you have specified a headboard and two end tables that once they're delivered don't fit? Like, what is that? Am I just like, that's the needle in the haystack, or there's guards in place and checks in place? How do you handle that, Chaney?
That's a good question, because eDesign is all online. It's really up to the client to make sure that stuff is double checked and accurate and all that stuff. And one safeguard I have against that is in my terms of service that they agree to when they sign up for my services. So there's it's about 10 things that I say, if you measure something wrong, basically it's not up to me to fix, it's you as the client. So there's some of that kind of like almost legal safeguarding that happens. But also, if I'm looking at a photo of a room and comparing it to their measurements, and I can't make sense of how that window only has 6 feet between that and the next window, I'll just ask the client to remeasure and say, can you just double check that for me? I'm looking at the pictures and I don't think there's 6 feet. It looks more like 3. There's things like that I will ask and clarify. But since most of what I'm doing is furnishing a space, often unless it's a really tricky space, often a piece of furniture will fit well. It's just a matter of whether it comes down to, those last 6-10 inches, whether it's something that needs to be fixed or not.
Right. Well, and it's funny because I have to look. I did this for another daughter now. She was in Boston and she had an apartment, and she was like, you know what, we've been living here 2 months and it just feels like the frat house. Please, what should we do? And we're going back and forth. And finally I said to her, just give me your credit card and I'm just going to do this for you. Like, I can't have this conversation 20 times, right?
Yeah.
And so what I did was I said, measure your room, tell me the windows are, blah, 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 like that. But see, I don't do that for a living. I don't do e-design for a living, okay? And so what happened was I ordered her an area rug, a headboard. I don't know what else I ordered. But the critical thing was there was this one part where, yes, the perimeter of the room was X amount of thing, but there was one jut in on one spot that met, like, I don't know if there was pipes there or whatever it was, but I didn't pick it up in the pictures of the room. And when she did the measurement, she didn't take that. So like, say the wall where the bed was on was, say, 12 feet, but the bed against the wall the bed opposite the wall was 10 feet. And then there was this jut in. Okay. So now I come up there, she's like, we get everything delivered to her. And she's like, I'm like, how does it look? She's like, yeah, it looks kind of good. And I can hear it in her voice, like it doesn't look good. I go up there a couple weeks later and I'm like, oh, well, this rug is a completely wrong size for this room. And she's like, what are you talking about? I said, because the room really isn't 12 by 12. We had to think of it as 10 by 10. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, sorry, baby, let's take that rug and put it in the living room because it looks stupid here.
Oops.
Yeah. And so, I literally at that moment had a thought to e-designers, and I thought, and so what you're saying is that you not only are taking extra care, where because it was my own kid, I probably didn't take extra care. So you're taking extra care in making sure you have a picture clear of every elevation. And then you also have the safety net in your thing that says, look, if you forgot it, it's on you.
That's right. Yeah, because at some point the client is taking responsibility for their own space because I can't be there in person. There's only so much I can do. And so I can ask them to remeasure. I can ask them to take a picture from a different angle. And I've done that plenty of times. There's often, I don't have that angle of the sofa where I can see that window, that kind of thing. But it tends to work out really well. I mean, I've gotten maybe one complaint this whole year about something. And that was because there was a miscommunication about where to hang their curtains. And so they ended up having, curtains that were too short because of the way the rings were hung on the rod.
Okay.
So there's very specific things like that, but it rarely happens.
Okay.
And which I don't know if that's just them not telling me or if, it really does work out. And I'd like to think it's the latter, that it really does work out.
Well, it sounds like to me that you're just really very professional and you're taking a lot of time to make sure that the details are well attended to at the beginning, which seems to me, of course, in all design, that's necessary, but even more so when you're doing off-site. Because like I said, once it was all done, I went back to the pictures and I was like, oh, I didn't have a picture of that corner, so I didn't know that jutted in. See, what you're saying is you would never design a room where there was a corner missing.
That's right. Yeah, I had one particular client who sent me pictures that were really small. For some reason, the way they came through in my email were just really tiny pictures, and it was very hard to see. So I asked her to resend some images, and that really helped a lot. So I think clients are willing to do those kinds of things as long as you're not asking them to, measure every baseboard's height and, the width of the windows between the moldings. And
exactly.
So,
okay.
there's things like that you can't ask of clients. And I think you just have to recognize that there are limits with eDesign and that clients are signing up for this kind of service that, it has to be a good fit for them as much as it is for you.
Okay. And in that contract, did you work with an attorney specifically because some of your needs are different than straight up interior design in-person consulting? So did you work with an attorney for that, or did you get it off of Google? How did you do your contract?
Yeah, so I did a lot of research. I didn't consult an attorney specifically, but I did a lot of research, a lot of Googling around. That's just kind of how my brain works. So going on and seeing what other people had done, people who do offer eDesign services, and also just thinking through the needs that I have when I interact with clients, so it's sort of, those things have evolved over time too. And as my services have evolved and changed, I've gone through and added things or taken things out or made things more specific. Like that 30-day clause was not always in there until I had one client that I just, stopped hearing from for months at a time. And then not to badmouth that client, we all get busy, and things happen, but it made me realize that I needed to put a cap on things just in case that I ever had to enforce that kind of thing.
Right. And that's important to know because it can drag out. And then what happens is, I remember, I want to say it was either Marie Flanagan or Laura Umansky in their episode, one of them. They had it in, now they do full-on luxury design, both of them, very, very high-end firms. But they both, I think it was Laura, she has it in her clause that if you don't respond to the last set of questions or proposals or whatever it is within 2 weeks, then she can charge you extra hours in order to revisit that project again. Like to refresh her and her team with your particulars. And it's legit, you know what I mean? And so that would be the same thing for you. It's like if somebody doesn't answer you for 6 weeks and then all of a sudden they come back and are like, can I put this, lamp here? You're like, well, I don't really remember your project. Let me take 2 hours instead of 5 minutes because it's not on my brain, right?
Right, exactly. If you have to go back in and reopen their floor plan and look at their design boards again and start that kind of not from scratch, but in some ways from scratch on your memory, because you don't want to just go based on feeling or anything like that. You want to still serve this client well, but in order for them to honor your time and you to honor their time and their needs, you have to figure out a way that works for you and that works for your business too.
So you've only had one person that has overstepped that. And of course they did that before you had that in writing. And so since then, do you have people coming up to the wire, or most people just see it and recognize? And what is the consequence? Do you say you will charge extra hours in order to refresh, or do you just say, that's it, we're done, sweetie, don't call me again?
I actually haven't had to enforce it yet. But in my head, it would be just more of a warning.
Your first one would be a warning, and then
sure. And then figuring out from there. But I think it's just important to give people time, because like I said, they all get busy. There's things that happen, but to say, hey, I do have a 30-day limit on this, and say that at day 20, not at day 29.
Right.
And give them some time to respond to that. And if you don't hear from them in 30 days, I think that gives you a right to either close the project, at least on your end, until they're ready to revisit it. And then you have to have some kind of sort of reopening fee, I think, at that point. Not necessarily a full from scratch design fee, but have something that is an incentive to have people keep going.
Okay. I'm going to have to remind Nicole Heimer from Curio Electro not to listen to this show. She designed my website, and my goodness, I swear to God, I could make her wait 3 and 4 weeks in between questions and emails. And I'm like, I know.
It happens. I know it happens.
No, and the thing is, look, I mean, Nicole has been amazing to me, and she is just, I can't recommend her highly enough for the branding and designing a website and everything. But I recognize that, it's probably very challenging to work with me, because I've got so many balls in the air, and then I will be on a project, and then I'm off a project, and the website is a project, and it's on my plate and off my plate. But, I like that you lay it out there. I think that's awesome for you that you lay it out there. So, and I also think that it does, look, if she had that, Nicole, if she had that on her website in the agreement, I probably wouldn't overstep.
Right. Yeah. There's something about that. It's an accountability thing, you have to have those kind of safeguards in place, and it's a time thing.
I'll have to suggest that she use that for her next client.
Right. After you're completely done, you don't need her ever again.
Exactly. Oh, okay. So, all right. So I think it's interesting that you took the information for your legal side, from collating information from other people. That's a little scary to me, although you sound very intelligent and very buttoned up. So I'm sure you're good with that. But I would like to say, I don't know if everybody, how many new listeners we have this week to the show, but if you're new, thank you for joining us. And if you are new, episode 171 with Danielle Liss was all about. Danielle Liss is an attorney that specializes in creatives. So, and she works virtually, just like we're talking about your design services, Chaney. And so she is totally the type of attorney that you could send your document that you put together from everybody, and for whatever agreed upon fee, 1 hour it will take to review, 2 hours. So you don't have to be in this big relationship with an attorney, and you don't have to. And what's really cool is she's adept and specializes in creatives and the online arena. So she's very versed in that. So if anybody is like, well, I'm not really as, do-it-yourselfer as Chaney and inclined to figure this out myself, you have Danielle Liss as a resource there. So,
yeah,
okay.
That's great.
So, yeah.
Well, one note about that actually is something I've forgotten, is that my dad's an attorney.
Oh, well, there you go. You see?
So he was part of my research. And so he did look through things at the beginning.
You did have that little once over.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
The thing,
I was like, this doesn't make total sense to me when you're talking about that. Now I'm remembering that way back when I initially drafted those, I did have him look them over.
Okay. See. All right. So, but that, and that's really all I was suggesting is I don't think it's really, that you put together your own contracts and don't have somebody look them over. And so I thought, well, okay, girlfriend, good for you, but you had your dad do it. And so if anybody listening doesn't have access to a dad who's an attorney.
Sure. a fortunate resource I have.
Exactly. I've interviewed quite a few designers where their husbands are attorneys also, so that's also right in-house there.
Oh, okay. That's helpful.
Exactly. All right. So let's get back to this making money business here. So obviously it's clear that if you're going to spend, 8 or 10 hours for a $300 room, you're talking about $35, $40 an hour. And that's not realistic for, I would think, to create any sort of level of income. So talk to us about those other ways that you are earning money on these projects, Chaney.
Sure. Yeah. So I think that my main concern when I started my business was that I wanted to, like I said at the beginning, make this an affordable and approachable thing for people to do. And so I had to figure out a way where I could keep my design fees reasonable. They're not going to be $300 for long, but, have it be reasonable for people to do that and then have me still make an income that was sufficient and sustainable. And so what I figured out through my background in design blogging is that you can earn affiliate income from posting links that link to you specifically. So they're tied back to you. And when you do that, you earn a commission. And so that commission is anywhere from 7 to 15%, something like that, on each person's purchase. And so if someone, spends $5,000 on a room, I would earn 7 to 15% of that as long as they purchase through the links that I send them. And clients do most of the time, unless they're really going rogue and want to go find everything else new, which, again, why would you hire a designer?
Sort of defeats the purpose, right? Exactly.
Yeah. So when I send them a shopping list, it's a list with links to specific products for them to purchase, and those are linked to that affiliate network. And so that's going to earn the additional money on top of whatever I have as the design fee.
Okay. And that's, as you said to me off air, that is disclosed to your clients. There's no sneakiness. There's no worried about if they find out this is, and by the way, as it should be, not anything to hide behind, because I'm going to make a guess here that the client isn't paying the 5 or 7% more for the piece. If they ordered the piece on their own, it would be the same price. The different vendors are taking it out of their cut and giving it to you, correct?
Correct. So it's a little bit of almost the reverse of trade pricing in some ways.
Right.
So instead of marking up product, the client pays retail, and then I earn a commission from basically sending people to that website. So they're paying me to be a salesperson in some ways.
Exactly.
And so there's that sort of piece of it where obviously it depends on the client's budget as to how much I actually make from that, but it is the way that I sort of balance out that design fee that's fairly low and more affordable.
Okay. And so you're saying that like on a list of $5,000 worth of furniture and pieces and accessories, you're going to make another $350 to $500.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody knows that I had to do that on a calculator. There's no way I could do that in my head, right?
I would have had to do that too.
Yeah, I'm like totally here with my iPhone doing this.
Yeah. And
okay.
I will say if there are other people out there who are interested in doing this kind of thing, there are lots of affiliate networks that you can get in touch with to start these sort of commission-based programs. You can also approach companies individually. Some of them have affiliate programs that they run on their own. So if you want to source a piece of furniture from a company that doesn't seem to have one, reach out and see if they are doing something like that or if they might be willing to set something up with you.
Okay. And so give us some resources for this, for designers who might be interested. I think you mentioned to me one of them is Reward Style Network.
That's right. Yeah. So that one is something that started in the fashion world and has sort of evolved and moved into more of the home interiors kind of world as well. That one is application based and they have to accept you because they're very protective of their network, if you will. Right. But it's the one that pays out the highest commissions that I've found. So that's the one that I use.
And can I make an assumption that these affiliate platforms are doing due diligence to make sure that you're a legit interior designer and not just Mrs. Smith who's got a big house and she wants to just purchase everything for her house?
Yes. They do. They vet everything. You have to fill out a whole application and talk about your website and have a blog or, something like that to sort of legitimize yourself.
Okay.
And so it started out and it's primarily geared towards bloggers, which I also have that as another part of my business is blogging and affiliate marketing. So that's the other piece of it that I use it for. So I not only use that network for my clients, but I also use it on my blog as well.
Okay. Now talk to me a little bit about the reality of, well, first of all, you said there was a couple of different avenues for this affiliate marketing besides reward style. Are there others big ones that we should mention just to have as resources?
Sure. So there's different ones. One is called Shop Style Collective. And that one is a little bit of a different model. So it does more of a pay per click issue. So it may not be a perfect fit for clients, but if you do have a blog or you run kind of more of a social media platform, then that might be a good fit for you there. And then the other one that I use, it used to be called Commission Junction. And I'm trying to remember because they rebranded. Okay. But if you Google that, Commission Junction, I think it's called CJ Affiliate Network now. Okay. But they have ones and you can apply to the programs individually for different companies.
And is the Amazon Affiliate Network of value to an interior designer, or there really isn't enough? I mean, maybe to a blogger, but how about an online designer?
Yeah, so I do use that some. The commission payouts are not great, but it is some place to get started that you don't have to necessarily have, a robust following or something like that on a blog to be able to apply.
Okay, so some of these others are going to require not only that you prove that you're a designer or a blogger and a website, but that you've got some sort of following. They're not just taking you if you launch today.
Correct. Yeah. So some of them you do have to build a bit of a reputation. And so I got in because I had written a design blog for about 3 or 4 years before I started my business.
Okay.
So that's my background, is in the design part of things, at least, is writing that blog and building a following there as well.
And what are we talking about as far as, are we talking about open rate of your blog? Are we talking about what are subscribers? Like, what is the metric that they're looking for?
Yeah, so it's changed over time. So honestly, I can't speak to the specifics now. But it used to be based on page views, and now because Instagram has gotten so big, they look at your social media handles like that as well.
And what is an impressive amount? If you have an Instagram, are they really like, don't call us sweetie unless you have 20K, or like 4,000? Like, where are we at? What's our sweet spot?
That's a great question. They keep that under wraps, actually. So
okay.
I'm not even sure.
Okay.
And I think it also depends on your branding. So, does your brand fit with what they're trying to convey as a company, as a brand?
Okay.
So Reward Styles seems to have very clear, bright photos, really well documented things. And then, for others, I'm not entirely sure because they kind of keep that as their own little vetting method that it's a little bit under wraps. So I can't speak to that.
So crazy, all this nonsense.
I know,
I mean, just tell us what the rules are and we'll play by them.
Yeah, people have asked me because I refer people to Reward Style fairly often. They're like, well, what are they looking for? And I'm like, honestly, I can't tell you, but you just have to try.
Right. And I appreciate that, and I get that's the reality of it, but it's sort of crazy. Just put the rules out. Like, put the hoops there and I'll run through them. You know what I mean?
Right,
like, I don't know.
right.
And I'm sure there's some reason why. That's the part where it would be totally something I would say to Mark McDonough, and he would, of Tastefully Inspired, and he would say to me, well, the way blah, blah, blah. I'd be like, oh, right. Okay. You're right. Okay.
Yeah, I understand, because they want to have the ability to change and evolve on those kinds of things. But just like with the affiliate disclosures that I tell my clients, I want to be transparent with people and know and they want to know what they're paying. They want to know what's happening. And legally, you do have to disclose that you're using affiliate links. Mm-hmm. So that is something that if people do use them in the future for their business, know that you do have to disclose them whenever you use them.
Okay. Now talk to me a little bit about, once you have identified some of these sources for affiliate links and you have, gotten through the hoops and you are approved, how hard is it to actually set up and do? Are we talking about, putting a little widget on your website and anybody could do it? Or are we what kind of complications are we talking about?
Yeah, it's really easy, actually. there's a couple of different facets to it. So one is how you actually get the link that's assigned to you. And so what they do is they have a little browser extension. So, on like Google Chrome, you could have a little widget that you install on there, and it's very easy to do. So when you go to, let's say, West Elm's website, you can use this widget to pull your link, and then you just copy and paste it into wherever you want to use it.
Okay.
It's really easy. So that part's simple. There's a little bit of website code stuff that you need to install, but again, they walk you through it. It's very easy. I consider myself a pretty tech-savvy person, but I had like zero issues getting that done.
Okay.
So that part is very easy.
Okay. So we shouldn't be intimidated by that part.
No, and that's the easiest part.
Okay.
You got to get through the door first.
Okay. And then
the big networks work. If you're doing it with an individual company, there might be some kind of code that a client, enters at checkout or
right.
something like that. But again, pretty straightforward stuff.
Okay. And when I noticed what I really loved, I love when, like what I was just complaining about not knowing what the hoops are. I love when I went to your website and everything was laid out. So it said to me, this is the price and these are the 4 things that you're going to have to do. And these are the 3 criteria that you need to meet. And I love all that. And then I also love that you actually right there in that area where a person could buy, you give them an example of a mood board, of a design board, not a mood board, a design board. Mm-hmm. And then you also literally have on there an example of the shopping list of this is the sofa and here is the link and here is the price. And this is the this and here is the link and here is the price. So a client theoretically, when they get that, they can literally just click, have it all delivered and the room is done, or they can do it over time. Of course, notwithstanding things that go out of stock or out of style. But the point is that it's their document to do what they want with at that point.
That's right. They own it at that point. Mm-hmm. So, they get a little bit of extra instructions, kind of depending on the room, of course, whatever's specific to their particular project. But for the most part, you can see exactly what you're going to get right on the website. And again, that's to mitigate a lot of the inquiries from people going, how does this process work? I can just literally send them to that page. I send them a link and they read through that information. And if then they have questions, great. I'm more than happy to answer them. But I will just give you a link and let you do your own research at some points. And that's how, I'm able to be one person and run this business, is to provide systems like that are in place and easy to access.
Right. You're speaking my love language now, systems.
Yes.
Okay. So now the thing is that I'm aware, in conversations I've had with other designers, I'm aware that other designers are charging $1,500, $1,600, $1,800 per room for this service. But I am also aware that there seems to be, and this is what I'm going to ask you, I think that they're giving a lot more hand-holding on the delivered end part of it. So I know for a fact they're getting involved in that this picture is going to be hung at 72 inches off the floor at 35 from this obstacle, this sconce on the left. And, all of this very, almost the same level of detail that you would have if you were doing, one-on-one high-end clientele consultation work, but they're just now executing it via online. Now they're charging a lot more for that. But my question is, what are you like, hey, you know what, not for nothing, but I'm doing a lot of that too, or nope, I'm very clean. Once you get your box of goodies, go do it. And, if you have a question, fine, but otherwise, sayonara.
Yeah, really the latter.
Okay.
So I find that I'm attracting clients who are kind of do-it-yourselfers, but need some guidance. So I think it depends on what your clientele is. Mm-hmm. So if it's a person who is willing to do a little bit of work and, sign up for the design process, but then they're kind of like, all right, I got this. Mm-hmm. They deserve a discount, right? Like they don't need all that help. Right. Whereas some people are going to say, no, I really want some help on the back end. And for me, maybe that's not as good of a fit for a client as it might be for another designer.
Right.
But, I don't do a lot of white glove service kind of stuff. I give you a lot of general guidelines. Pictures should be hung with, around 60 inches off the floor to the center of the picture, and those kinds of general things about curtains and how to hang those. But I'm not looking on Skype with you on a video call and saying, no, move it down 2 inches. No, I've got, do you know what I mean? So
yes.
it really depends on what client you're attracting. So I think you have to own that as a business person. Say, who am I working with? Who do I want to work with? And to not be afraid to say no if the person isn't a good fit. Say, maybe I have this other designer I could recommend to you, or, you might need to go do a little more research because I don't think my process is going to be a good fit for you.
Right. I love it. I mean, you're exactly right. There is a need for it, at both ends, whatever the client wants, but not to mix your message. That's more the point. If you're going to go out there and you're going to charge $1,800 for a room, then yes, you're going to have to give more service and more value in order to justify that. And if that's what you want to do and you love to do, more power to you. But
exactly.
At this level, this is cool. So, I mean, the truth is we're saying it's $300 a room. How often what I was going to say was, but really it's really $650 to $850 a room. So how many times does somebody go through the whole process with you and say, thanks so much, I'm just going to keep this for a rainy day, and doesn't really end up ordering? Or is there just really, by the time they get to you, they're in do-it mode?
So I'd say the vast majority are doers and that they're kind of ready to go. I have had clients where it's been crickets afterwards. I can track whether they're purchasing or not because I do get notifications about those commissions. And so if I don't see they're purchasing anything, then, you just kind of have to cut your losses. You can't force people to buy anything.
Right.
But the idea is for me to make it as easy as possible and that they love what they've gotten to where they're motivated to actually make those purchases. Mm-hmm. And whether that's today or 6 months from now doesn't make a difference to me, but it's, making sure that they're happy with what they've gotten and that they're feeling ready to go and that they could go put this room together tomorrow if they really wanted to.
Right. And the truth is there's lots of reasons why somebody might do everything to the point and then not order. It could be that they never intended. They might be establishing their own budget, and this month the budget was $300 for the services, and the budget for the execution is in 6 months when somebody gets a bonus or something. Or right. Or it could be that they know they're going to do a redecoration in the spring, but they want, again, budget this out or have an idea of where they're going. But so the question is not knowing why somebody doesn't purchase. Like if they don't say to you up front, hey, I want to do this now. We're renovating in the spring, but I want to get my ducks in a row. My husband and I decided, or my partner and I decided we want to have our budget set out, but blah, blah, blah. Short of knowing why somebody doesn't purchase, would you ever, Chaney, if you noticed it was a month or 2 months out and they hadn't made any purchases, would you bother and would you nudge and go back in and say anything like, just wondering if you were happy with your selections, if there's something, or do you just let sleeping dogs lie? Because on one hand, that's a sale not made. So my brain is like, where's the follow-up? On the other hand, I don't know. So what are you thinking?
Yeah, so it depends on the client. So often what happens is as I go through the process with someone, I can start telling whether they're going to be the type that's ready to go or whether they're going to purchase down the road or, whether they're just kind of getting the help and that they're not going to end up purchasing in the end. Okay. So if I feel like it's a client who seemed motivated, but then nothing is happening, I may follow up with an email just to say, hey, how are you guys doing with the design? Have you had a chance to implement it? Have you had a chance to make some of those purchases? I'm not going to, say, hey, I have noticed you haven't bought anything.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Right. Exactly. But there are ways to open the door to the conversation.
Sure. Yep. And often if I feel like I gave them a completed design and they're not purchasing, I let it lie. It's a risk of the business model, but, I would say that since the vast majority of people are making those purchases, then, I just cut my losses at that point, and you have to adjust accordingly, and so in the future, maybe that means the next year you raise your prices slightly to accommodate those people who aren't purchasing, and, you compensate based on, other methods, but you don't necessarily follow up individually.
Okay. And how often do you have any marketing in place where you remarket to people that you've had successful projects with? So they've done a living room. Do you have any marketing in place that touches back with them and says, did you ever think about doing your master bedroom? Or did you want to refer your mother to me? Do you have any marketing in place like that, Chaney?
So I usually follow up at the end of the year with clients and say, so great working with you. If you do have more projects coming up, I would love to have the opportunity to work with you again. But I like your idea, actually. So I'm going to take that piece of advice and build out a strategy for that. I feel like, the first couple of years of business is all about iterating and all about making those updates and changes. And so,
and hearing little tips along the way that you can add to your arsenal, right? Well, and it made me think, you're welcome. And it made me realize that you are getting ready to raise your prices in the coming year. And that, to me, is a no-brainer. Hey, I had a great time working with you, and I just want to let you know, if you're sitting on the fence about any future projects, I'm going to be raising my prices. It's going to be $450 for a room now that you did for $300. So,
yeah, and that's exactly what I did last year when I raised my prices. Was I wrote all those clients and said, hey, if you are planning on doing a project, if you sign up before the end of the year, then I'll honor that previous year's price.
Great. And did you get some clients from that?
I got one, but it's just sort of another way to stay in front of people, I think.
Yeah.
So regardless of whether they sign up immediately or not, I think that's just another touch point that you get to get back in front of them.
Yeah. Well, I also like that you do the gift certificates, because I think that the e-design is particularly appropriate for gift certificates. And of course, there's designers out there that do full service are like, we're appropriate too,
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I know that they are. I mean, I know that every level of design is appropriate. But the thing is, I think why I believe e-design is particularly appropriate is because most people, like I would have no compunction right now if I had a daughter, sister, brother that did not live near me, that I could not help, and I could hear how adept you are at long distance design, I would have no compunction giving them a gift certificate to your services. Where if I knew that my daughter, sister, brother, whatever, really wanted that full on and was intending to do full on luxury one-on-one interior design, well, how can I pick that designer for that person? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't do that. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, and as much as you do have your ideal client, and I'm sure those are the projects that you work the best in and have the most joy come from, for e-design, I think it sounds like to me, correct me if you need to, that it's less important if I were to buy a gift certificate for somebody else, and then you were like, well, this isn't really my target client when you get the phone call or the the thing in your inbox or whatever. But the fact is, it's not. It is different than one-on-one in your house, right?
It is, yeah. And I would say that it's the more challenging clients are less so if they're in the right demographic. It's more the style, which is true for all the designers, I think. It's like you have styles that you love and that you work particularly well in, but you can design for a lot of different styles.
Right.
So I feel like that is more of the challenge. But if the person buying the gift certificate goes and looks at my website and says, oh, this is great, she loves bright, clean, whatever design, and I know my daughter would love that, then you can say, great, I think this is going to be a good fit. And there's more flexibility with e-design, I think, than other forms of interior design, probably.
Yeah, I think it lends itself to that. So hopefully you've got a nice little campaign coming for Christmas holidays.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's good. It just seems like a great way. I mean, even to your own clients that you've had success with, you could suggest, do you have a friend, a family member that a gift certificate would be a perfect gift for you to give them? Do you know what I mean? Like somebody that's already been through the process, it's like, okay, that's easy.
Yeah.
So I like it.
Once clients have been through the process, they get it,
right?
And they see the value. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to explain in words, but once they've been through it themselves, they are 99% of the time cheerleaders for what this process can do for a person.
Now, you have absolutely no intention, and correct me, you have no intention or desire to use this as a platform to transition to, in-person design. This is your business model. Is that correct, Chaney?
That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah. My very first project, I did a full install and I hated it. So I was like, I got to figure something else out. And so that wasn't the entire, impetus for starting the e-design business. But what I found is what I really love to do is work with clients through e-design. It's a great fit for me for a lot of ways. And then the other thing is to expand my business in different directions. So, I'll have the e-design arm with the one-on-one clients. I have the blogging. And then my newest venture is launching an e-design course. So it's actually teaching other interior designers or aspiring interior designers how to do what I've done and set up their business for success.
Ooh, that's exciting. I didn't know that. Usually I know those little tidbits before we talk. That's interesting.
This is actually the first time I've announced it publicly.
Whoa,
So
you just announced it to 120 countries, lady.
Well, hopefully, that's the goal, is to get the word out. So It's not done yet. It's still in process, but that's the next sort of phase of this, is because I think that there's a huge market that is untapped. And so I don't think I'm necessarily, creating competition for myself, but people don't know how to do this. I've gotten lots of inquiries over the past year or so saying, how did you do this?
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, I'm passionate about education and I want to help people succeed, especially women in business. And so to be able to scale that in a way that's different from a one-on-one client, I'm enabling, the person at the top of the funnel to help, a dozen other people below them to help, start that process.
I have a question for you. Do you feel that, look, I know there's designers out there that are doing full service design and offering e-design, and I know they're making it work, and that's their thing. That's their shtick. I'm not judging that, or I'm not asking you to judge it. I'm asking you, if you were, and you are about to start to teach designers how to do this, would you say, in your opinion only, that it would be better attacked as the focal point of their business, or in your mind, do you see how it could be an adjunct to a full service design business? Tell me, what do you think about that?
That's a great question, because as I've been thinking about this course, I'm thinking about, who am I marketing this to? Who am I building this course for?
Right.
And it's really two sets of people.
Right.
So it is people who want to have their own business, but who for some reason either want the flexibility of working from home online, whether they're a mom and they want, to start a design business, but, they really need to be at home with their babies at this time. It's that sort of person. It's also the person who's currently working for another firm who wants to maybe launch an e-design business either on the side, if that's okay with their firm, obviously. But,
right.
And so it's that. And it's also people who, want to start this as an arm of their interior design business. So there's a few different kind of facets that I'm thinking about for this, and I think there's room for everybody. I really do. And that sounds like a one-size-fits-all answer, but the reason is because you can tailor this business to be what you want it to be. And I think that's part of the beauty of it. And so to give people the tools, the information, the background to be able to pull it together a lot faster than I did, because I kind of had to figure it all out, is enabling them to really launch something that is going to hopefully fit their career professionally, and whether that's an adjunct kind of thing or whether it's a standalone business. I think you just have to figure out how to structure it so that it works for you.
Okay. My gut feeling on it is that if I were a luxury design firm, that the exact model that you have set up is not a great idea, my opinion, because you're mixing your client base, right? So for instance, your luxury design client, you're suggesting a 4,000 custom made sofa, but your e-design client, you're suggesting, I don't know, wherever the sources are that you get it from, ready, off the street, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And so I think that needs to be considered, but I'm curious if they could utilize, say, 90% of your systems and then just scale it for the luxury model. So maybe they're not okay, so that's true. Okay, good.
Yeah, and so I'm not telling you need to charge this much for your services. This is your ideal client.
Or you have to use these affiliate links and so forth. Right.
I'm asking you to ask these questions of yourself.
Love
Who
it.
are you trying to target?
Right.
Who are the people that are going to want to use this service? Is it, a high-end client who just happens to want to work online? and then you come and do the full install at the end and you make that part of it work. You can take different pieces of it and make it work for you and your business and your goals. But I'm asking you all the questions to consider and giving you a lot of tools along the way.
Yeah. No, I love it. I think that I have to say I'm a pretty good judge of people, and you're very, very smart, and I can see that you do things systematically. I can hear that you do things systematically, and I got to believe that this course is going to be just dynamite. I really do. How close are you to launching it?
So the goal is to launch it in January, February.
Wow, it's close.
So
okay.
It's close. Yeah, I'm closing in on the course content creation, and then from there it'll be all the logistics of, getting it recorded and put up on the site and all that kind of stuff.
Very exciting.
Marketing, of course.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it's sort of a natural next step for me in terms of my long-term goals, and I'm excited to be able to get that in people's hands sooner rather than later.
Okay. Well, the really great thing about a podcast is it's evergreen. Somebody might listen to this in March, and then they can buy your course when they listen to it the first time.
That is true. It might be, hopefully, goodness, it'll be launched then.
But I'm just saying, that's just the point. Every day we're getting new listeners, and, so I have to say I'm really, really happy for you, and I'm so glad that we did this interview, because I think, I'm sitting here thinking, wow, there's some things when I just go, I would like to do that. Of course, I don't have 1 ounce of time to do this, and really, this is not anything I would ever do. But I get excited about thinking about going through your course, and I just had it. It's going up this. Oh, okay. So never know where we are in time. So now that we're talking, the show isn't out yet, but by the time this is on air, the show will be out. Kay Whitaker was on the show, and she has a boot camp for email marketing for interior designers. And I was just like, I want to do that. I want to do that.
That's awesome. I could probably use some pointers on that. That's awesome.
I'm going to tell you, you and I are talking in real time. The show is up in 2 more days. So by the time everybody else is listening, they're like, Chaney, we heard the show already. But it's a terrific show, and she is just so smart. And I just get so jazzed up when I hear people like you. You're just like Kay. You're just very clear. You can tell that you know exactly what you're talking about. You understand exactly what makes you successful in your systems and your processes, and now you're figuring out a way to teach it to other people. It's just, it's genius. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been really fun, and it's been great to have the freedom to change things and evolve as I go along.
Yeah.
And, to allow myself to do that. I feel like sometimes we can pigeonhole ourselves and say, okay, well, this is what I'm doing. But to give yourself permission to change, I think, is a really beautiful thing.
Oh, awesome. Very terrific. Thank you so much, Chaney, for being on the show and sharing all this with us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Well, I said it. Chaney has her stuff together, doesn't she? And look, I realize e-design is not for everybody, but if you've been dabbling in it and maybe you've been having trouble figuring out how to make it work profitably, I believe Chaney's model is well thought out. What are the ingredients that make it work? Here are my opinions. First, Chaney knows her lane. She's not trying to provide e-design for everybody. She is specifically looking for and attracting, as she described, the consumer who fancies themselves a DIYer, but needs the extra guidance and confidence boost that Chaney can provide. Second, Chaney has set up a well-organized onboarding process. Everything is clearly explained. Pricing, timelines, required contributions by the client. They're all there. Go look at her website. You'll see how easy it is. I love it. Third, Chaney actively blogs about the exact topics that are of interest to her target market. She draws them in with her insightful posts and tips, and this creates a pool of potential clients for her. And lastly, Chaney knows it's not a hobby. She has figured out that if she uses quality affiliates, she can offer her services at truly reasonable rates, yet still earn the value of her time backed with the dollars coming in through the affiliates. I love it. It's a win-win. And now she is launching her online course. So if you want to learn firsthand exactly how to do this in your interior design firm, you can take Chaney's course. As she said, expect the course to be available in early 2018. What I didn't realize when we were talking is that she already has the landing page set up. So if you are interested and you'd like to be in the loop about this course and its launch, you can sign up for it at bit.ly, bit.ly/launch an e-design business. bit.ly/launch an e-design business. Don't worry, it'll be in the show notes and the newsletter so that if you are interested, you don't have to worry if you're running or walking or driving. Alrighty, now, I've been talking about the new opportunities coming in 2018. I've been feeding them out a little bit on Facebook Live and various places. I want to tell you about them officially. Here we go. My second online live coaching course, co-hosted with Nancy Ganskaufer, the founder of Your Business Partner, is going to be available. We are going to start January 4th, right after the new year. We're going to hit the ground running. This course is called 6 Weeks to Success. This course is for you if you feel like you don't have the operation side of your firm under control. We will take in detail the 6 steps that we do at WindowWorks and that Nancy does at her business to basically, like, I want to call it like a gut check on our businesses. We do this every single year at WindowWorks, and as Nancy has said often, at each initiative, okay? So if you don't know how to know what it costs to be open, if you don't know how to evaluate and plan your marketing budget, and if you don't know how to look at yourself and your staff and evaluate and analyze where each of your zone of genius is, then this course is for you. This is 6 Weeks to Success. If you want to get in on this, go to luannigara.com/6 weeks. LUANNNIGARA.com/6 weeks. Another thing coming are masterminds for 5-figure and 6-figure earners. I'm going to divide it into 2 groups. These will be small groups of 5 to 8 designers max, and you will all be at a similar business level. We will meet each week for 90 minutes online, like via Zoom or webinar or some platform. You know me in the tech. We will meet each week for 90 minutes. We will brainstorm. We will work through struggles. We will provide honest and caring feedback, and we will share advice and encouragement. If you sometimes feel like you are all alone and wonder if anyone else has the same questions and the same troubles and the same challenges, then my mastermind is for you. The landing page for this is not up yet, but if you are interested, you could do 2 things. You could email me at info@luannigara.com and let me know you want the information when it's out. And you also should get on my email list so that you will automatically be sent everything as it is ready. Text the word Design Biz, DESIGNBIZ, to the number 444999. So 2 ways to know what's going. Email me at info@luannigara.com and tell me I'm interested and I want to know when it's available, or get on the mailing list and know when the information comes out. Okay? Now, thank you so much for the recent iTunes reviews. I'm just so happy and grateful each day when I open it up and I see a new one. You guys truly rock. And if you haven't left yours yet, please do. I thank you in advance if you would. All righty, guys, that is it for today. Thanks tons for joining me. Have an excellent day. Thank you for joining me again today for another episode of A Well-Designed Business. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks in Livingston, New Jersey, your trade resource for custom window treatments and awnings. Learn more about WindowWorks at www.windowworks-nj.com. All of our music is original music by Room 2 Productions. Please contact us if you want to learn more about original music for your business or your events.